When we pushed all these programs, I said I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether you live in a red state or a green state.
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory has not gotten. My memory is fine. My memory. Take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on. The conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top. I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
A few moments later.
Can I just say, I mean, on this point about Mexico, I mean, he misspoke on the name of the country in the context of a larger answer about what he's doing to try to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza. So is it a perfect answer? Is it great to misspeak? No, it's never great to misspeak. I promise everybody on this panel right now has misspoken and said the wrong name or the wrong the wrong date in a conversation. But, he's explaining in great detail the work that he's doing to try to ease that crisis. And so I don't think that we should lose sight of the fact that he's explaining the work that he's doing as president and get so hung up on one.
All right, guys, so I take no pleasure in making this video, okay? It's actually a sad day in America. It's a sad day in this country. But I'm telling you guys right now, Joe Biden is done. He's done. Like, he just is not mentally fit enough to be president. And there's absolutely no way. There's absolutely no way that we could possibly have another 4 years of Joe Biden, because he does not have the cognitive capabilities to be commander-in-chief. And this is essentially the conclusion of the DOJ report that came out in regards to the DOJ investigation into Joe Biden mishandling classified documents, in which they concluded that Biden did, in fact, mishandle classified documents as a private citizen. It actually posed a significant national security threat, risk, but yet they're going to let him walk. They're not going to charge him or prosecute him, one, because they have a policy of not charging a sitting president, but also, two, because they basically concluded that Biden is not mentally fit enough to stand trial, okay? Basically, the guy is so mentally unfit that he cannot stand trial. That basically the jury would feel bad for him, right? They'd be like, wow, this is elder abuse to send this guy to jail. So they're like, nah, we're just going to decline to actually prosecute him. And this is damning for so many reasons. One, because we're clearly and obviously seeing the two standards of justice here, in which you have Biden commit what the DOJ is admitting is a crime. Okay, he did it, but yet they're refusing to prosecute him and basically saying, well, he's too cognitively disabled to stand trial. And if I'm Trump and I'm listening to this, I might have to come out here and be like, look, I'm too mentally unfit to stand trial as well too. Okay, let me off the hook like Joe Biden.
But is this not helpful to Trump's team, though, that is still handling the class? Because we have a former Trump attorney waiting in the wings.
Yes, it's helpful.
Isn't this going to be something that they could potentially use?
Let me tell you two ways it's helpful. One is just atmospherically, right? We've all seen 1,000 times the photos of documents strewn around the bathroom and the stage of Mar-a-Lago. Now there's similar looking photos in this report. But here's the technical way that Donald Trump's team is going to use this. Mark my words. Donald Trump's team in the federal Jack Smith classified documents case of Mar-a-Lago is going to bring a motion for what's called selective prosecution. Very, very hard to win these motions. What you have to do is show a judge somebody else did essentially the same thing I did. I was prosecuted. He was not. Now, Donald Trump has a basis to make that motion.
But in all seriousness, though, it's a sad, sad, sad day, because we quite literally have a president of the United States, a sitting president, that is not mentally fit for office. They're saying that his memory is so poor that he couldn't even remember when he was vice president. He couldn't remember when his son died. they were questioning him and they couldn't really get any answers in regards to, what he did with the classified documents because he doesn't remember. So when you are thinking about this situation, okay, and some of you guys may have watched the Tucker Carlson Putin interview, and Putin sat down for 2 hours and went over the history of Russia and Ukraine, and he had a substantive conversation for 2 hours straight. He sharpens attack. This is what we're dealing with. Our so-called enemies, and the reason why I say so-called is because also during that interview, Putin basically implied that he tried to be our friend, but we were like, nah, we don't want to be your friend, right? He said that he asked about potentially joining NATO. And again, that's neither here nor there. That's not the point of this video. I'm just bringing it up because I just finished watching it, and I'm like, wow, the difference between Putin and Biden is night and day. There's no way that we should have Joe Biden sitting across from Putin as commander-in-chief of the United States discussing pressing issues like war, okay? Because this guy, he's just not mentally fit. He's not there, and even the DOJ is admitting it. So without further ado, I want to play this news clip real quick so you guys can get a better understanding of the conclusion of this report and kind of what happened here. And then we're going to play Joe Biden's meltdown over this DOJ report because he's lashing out. And even as Joe Biden lashes out, explaining why he's mentally fit for office, he's showing that he's clearly not mentally fit for office, and is actually pretty sad. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, remarkable revelations indeed in the last hour or so here in Washington. This was a report that was done on behalf of the Justice Department to see whether charges should be brought against Joe Biden for his handling of classified documents, taking them to his home in Wilmington in Delaware. The headline you might think would be that he is not going to face charges, but it isn't. The headline is the detail of what the special prosecutor thinks of the sitting president's memory. Let me read a bit of it to you because it is pretty staggering. Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited, both during his recorded interviews with the ghostwriter in 2017 and his interview with our office in 2023. He did not remember when he was vice president. He did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died, and his memory appeared hazy when describing the Afghanistan debate that was once so important to him. It goes on to say Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. That assessment of the state of mind of a sitting president is staggering. You get a sense there of why the special prosecutor didn't think that it was worth pressing charges, because he thought a jury would see an elderly man with a poor memory. Remarkable indeed for those on his side who have been wondering quietly for some time whether he is the appropriate candidate to fight another election. Well, this will increase those concerns. For the other side, it will supercharge those who think that he is not fit for office. And of course, it comes off the back of a week where he has forgotten the word Hamas, mixed up the French presidents, mixed up the German chancellors. It's really damning indeed. He's been speaking in the last few hours. He didn't reference any issues of memory, but he did respond to the report itself.
Wow.
Bottom line is the special counsel in my case decided against moving forward with any charges, and this matter is now closed.
Look, I think it's very unlikely that the matter is now closed. As I say, it will supercharge questions again.
Yeah. Wow. This is embarrassing. It is extremely embarrassing. And what's more embarrassing, guys, is the fact that Joe Biden announced a special press conference, a surprise press conference, in light of the report about his memory or his cognitive issues. And let's just say he did not ease anybody's doubts that he is definitely struggling upstairs. Take a look.
In addition, I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of... Every Memorial Day we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or if he passed away. Simple truth is I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events going back 40 years. At the same time I was managing international crisis, their task was to make a decision about whether to move forward with charges in this case. That was their decision to make. That's the counsel's decision to make. That's his job. And they decided not to move forward. For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed. I'm going to continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America. Now, thank you, and I'll take some questions.
When you look back at this incident, is there anything you would do differently now? And do you think that a special prosecutor should have been appointed in the first place in both of these cases?
First of all, what I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office, in my offices. I should have done that. If I go back, I didn't have the responsibility to do that. That was my staff was supposed to do that, and they referenced that in the report. And my staff did not do it in a way that, for example, I didn't know how half the boxes got in my garage until I found out staff gathered them up, put them together, and took them to the garage in my home. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. It was in my house. It wasn't out in, like in Mar-a-Lago, in a public place where, and none of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know what I mean, around the corners? None of that. And so I wish I had paid more attention to how the documents were being moved and where. I thought they were being moved to the archives. I thought all of it was being moved. That's what I thought. Now, what was the last part of your question?
Whether a special counsel should have been appointed in this case and in the case of your rival, former President
I
Trump.
think a special counsel should have been appointed. And the reason I think a special counsel should have been appointed is because I did not want to be in a position that they looked at Trump and weren't going to look at me, just like they looked at the vice president. And the fact is they made a firm conclusion. I did not break the law, period.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, now during this press conference, Biden was asked directly about his memory from Peter Doocy, in which he responded that if I can't remember anything, why am I letting you speak? So at one point he mixed up Egypt and Mexico, okay? And he just did not sound good, okay? He sounded like somebody that is struggling. And this comes as Biden has been struggling all week. Again, I just did a video earlier today about Biden mixing up the leaders of Germany and France with dead people. And of course, you know, outlets like, you know, CNN are coping for Biden to a certain extent, trying to make it seem like that this is not really a big deal.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both old Americans, and there's nothing that we're going to be able to do in this election cycle to change that narrative except go directly at it. And I hear a lot of people tonight saying, I don't think it was a good move. Well, you can't just hide, because we're not in a normal political media atmosphere. Voters want a fighter. Voters want to say, you come at me and you talk about my son and me not remember when my son died, I'm going to tell you something. And so will it be the thing that folks decide in November whether or not, if it's Donald Trump and Joe Biden on age? Probably not, because their age actually cancels them out. It's who is going to stand up for me, who is going to fight. There were moments that when he mixed up Mexico and the president of Egypt, but I will argue in his remarks that young voters, the thing that they were listening to was what he said about Gaza. And that he went as far as I have ever heard him say without saying the word ceasefire. He said, I want an extended pause on hostages. That's what young people are actually looking at, not whether or not he mixed up the name of the president. They want to know, what are your actual policies? And I'd be curious to see what the polling shows if they get out there with this message, if it gets more traction. His age isn't going to change, so he has to take it on straight ahead. He can do it with a little comedy, the way he did it with the Fox reporter, talking about, you know, my biggest memory loss was that I even let you speak, because we know that antagonistic behavior. It might not work for all voters, but he can't hide on this.
Doug, is that the case? Because when you look at polling, voters way more register that concern of age with Biden than they do with Trump, even though Trump is, as Ashley noted, just a few years.
In terms of media management, you want to be out there, because what happened after he had his speech, we played a clip of him saying, "How dare you speak about my son that way?" We didn't play a clip of him, saying Mexico instead of Egypt. And I think people take these things in a different way than they used to. They're not sitting home at the couch waiting for him to speak. What they're going to do is see a number of clips. And your point is very well taken, that essentially there's a lot of young people who have been waiting for him to speak in some kind of striking way about Israel and Gaza, and specifically him saying, "I think they've gone overboard," using that kind of language. That's going to be very striking in the social media space. And also seeing all the reporters barking at him, yelling at him, saying, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," and then he's got quick, fast, snappy, defensive replies. I don't necessarily think, again, generationally, they're going to be like, "Whoa, he was sarcastic. I like a nicer Biden." That hasn't been what they've been asking for.
Yeah, so no matter how much CNN copes, the fact of the matter is that this press conference that Joe Biden decided to do tonight for whatever reason is an unmitigated disaster, okay? I understand why he would want to come out and try to defend himself for not remembering his son's death or when he died, okay? But he's not doing himself any favors because he can't stand up there and coherently answer questions. That's just the reality of the situation. But I told you guys, and I'll tell you guys again, I'm making this prediction. I believe that Joe Biden, unfortunately, is going to have a Mitch McConnell moment on the campaign trail, on national television, before the 2024 election. And at that point, it will be over for him officially. Okay, they will force him to drop out, because if he has a Mitch McConnell moment, which he's on the verge of having a Mitch McConnell moment, it's over for him. It's absolutely over for him. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the mainstream liberal media has a policy of not covering Joe Biden's speeches anymore, right? You know, the policy they have of not covering Trump speeches, okay, because of so-called misinformation or disinformation. They might just do that for Biden so that the American people can't see how cognitively disabled this man actually is, okay? The fact that he is struggling, right? He's clearly mentally struggling with the job. He should be in a nursing home, not the White House. And the longer that this carries on, the more embarrassing that it gets for the American public, okay? The rest of the world is looking at us and they're laughing, okay? We used to be the greatest nation in the world, but look at us now. We've fallen off of a cliff, and Joe Biden is a representation of that. It is sad. It is sad that this is the point that we're at as a country, and look at who's leading it. This guy is out of his mind. He's not even mentally fit enough to stand trial. But we're supposed to believe that this guy is leading the country? We're supposed to entrust decisions of war to this guy? Again, this is ridiculous. This administration is a clown show, an absolute clown show. So, with that being said, man, I don't think that this is going to end well for Joe Biden. I personally believe that the 25th Amendment should be enacted at this point. But, you know, if they choose not to remove Biden, okay, if they let him continue to do this, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. And I hate to say that, but it seems like that's the path that we're going down, and it's really, really, really sad for this country. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.